My name's Eddie Malone, and if you've never heard of Rustwood, Ohio, don't worry, most people haven't. It's the kind of place you only stop in if your car breaks down on the highway. The streets are lined with shuttered diners, rusty factory gates, and half-empty bars that smell like stale beer. I grew up in one of those little houses with peeling paint, the kind where the windows let in more cold than light. My father, Frank Malone, worked 30 years at the steel mill. To me, he was like a giant when I was a kid. Broad shoulders, strong hands, a man who seemed unbreakable. But when the mill closed in the late 80s, I watched him shrink into someone I barely recognized. The work was gone, the paycheck stopped, and so did his sense of purpose. He'd spend afternoons sitting in his recliner, staring at the turned-off TV, sometimes a bottle of whiskey on the floor. My mom tried to hold the house together, but there were more fights than dinners. That's when I swore to myself I'd never end up like him. I wouldn't give my life to some company only to have it yanked away. If money was power, then I wanted money, stacks of it. My first taste of trading wasn't stocks, though. It was baseball cards. I used to hustle kids at the local park, trading a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card for 3 nobodies, then flipping those nobodies to some other kid for something even better. I learned fast that value wasn't about what something was, it was about what someone else believed it was. That lesson would stick with me. After high school, I bounced between jobs. Gas station attendant, car lot salesman, even a stint unloading trucks at Walmart. At the dealership, I'd watch guys twice my age sweating through polyester suits just to earn a commission on a minivan. I remember one night sitting in the break room flipping through an old Business Week magazine someone left behind. There was this article about traders in New York making $1 million in a single bonus check. $1 million! I did the math. That was more than my entire neighborhood made in a year. Something clicked in me right then. I started obsessing. I checked the stock listings in the newspaper, though half the time I didn't even understand what I was looking at. Still, I knew that's where I had to be. Not Rustwood, not Ohio, New York City, Wall Street. At 21, I made the move. I sold my beat-up Chevy for $600, packed one suitcase, and bought a one-way Greyhound ticket east. The bus ride took more than 12 hours, and I spent most of it staring out the window, imagining skyscrapers, ticker tapes, fast-talking men in suits making fortunes with just their voices and their guts. I told myself I'd become one of them, no matter what it took. When I finally arrived at Port Authority, I stepped off the bus into the chaos of Manhattan. The horns, the yelling, the smell of hot dogs mixed with exhaust fumes. It felt like another planet. My suit was cheap, my shoes hurt, and I had barely $200 left in my pocket. But standing there, craning my head up at those buildings that seemed to touch the clouds, I felt like I was at the gates of the kingdom. That was the start. I was in New York, broke, scared, but ready to gamble everything. New York had a way of making you feel invisible. Every day I'd walk past guys in $1,000 suits, shiny shoes, slicked back hair. Meanwhile, I was sleeping in a rundown hostel on 31st Street that smelled like mildew and cigarettes. My room had one flickering light bulb, a broken radiator, and a mattress that felt like it had been used since the 60s. Still, I called it home. By day, I pounded the pavement. I printed 20 copies of my pathetic resume at a corner copy shop and went firm to firm downtown, shoving it at anyone who'd take it. Most didn't. Some receptionists laughed right in my face. A few were kind enough to say, "We'll keep it on file," which meant I'd never hear from them again. I was about 2 days away from giving up when I found a dingy little brokerage house on Broad Street called Dawson & Tate. The place was chaos, phones ringing nonstop, brokers shouting across the room, a haze of smoke hanging in the air. It smelled like adrenaline and desperation. I asked for a manager, and that's when I met Mickey Russo. Mickey was maybe mid-30s, slick Italian guy from Brooklyn, gold watch, greasy hair, combed straight back. He looked me up and down, smirked at my thrift store suit, and said, "So, you want to be a hotshot, huh?" "I want to work," I said, trying not to sound nervous. Mickey laughed, slapped me on the back. "Work? Kid, this ain't work. This is war.
You got balls? I think so. That's a start. Grab a seat. You're a cold caller now. That was it. No contract, no training, no paycheck unless I made commission. They shoved a stack of phone numbers in front of me. Doctors, dentists, plumbers, random folks with a little cash, and told me to pitch them stocks. My job was to convince total strangers to invest their hard-earned savings in companies I didn't know a damn thing about. The first week was hell. I dialed until my fingers cramped. 99 out of 100 people hung up or cursed me out. I remember one guy yelling, "You Wall Street scum, don't ever call me again," before slamming the phone. I felt like dirt. But then, on the 7th day, something clicked. I was talking to a dentist from Long Island, and instead of reading the script, I improvised. I told him, "Doc, I know what it feels like to build something with your own hands. This company I'm offering, same story. Small now, but it's gonna be big." I put emotion in my voice, almost believed it myself. He bought $5,000 worth. My commission, $800. In 1 week, I made more than I used to make in a month back home. I remember clutching that check like it was a golden ticket. That was the first time I felt the rush, the high of making money out of thin air with nothing but my voice. That night, I celebrated at a dive bar near the hostel, and that's where I met Tommy Clark. Tommy was a tall, lanky kid from Kansas, face still sunburned from farm life, suit just as cheap as mine. He had the same wide-eyed look I did, like a kid who just walked into the circus. We hit it off immediately. Over beers, Tommy said, "Man, can you believe this? 2 nobodies from nowhere selling stocks in New York City." I grinned. "Feels like we just cracked the code, huh?" He laughed. But you think it's, I don't know, legit? Some of these guys sound like they'd sell air if they could bottle it." I shrugged, pretending not to care. Legit or not, people are buying, and as long as they're buying, we're eating. Tommy didn't argue, but I could tell he wasn't sure. Still, we both knew one thing. We were in. We'd made it onto Wall Street's lowest rung, and from there, the only way was up. Or so I thought. By 1994, 2 years after I'd first stepped into Dawson and Tate, I was no longer just another desperate cold caller. I'd clawed my way up the food chain. My name was on the leaderboard, my phone never stopped ringing, and for the first time in my life, I had more money in my pocket than I knew what to do with it. The trick was simple, or at least that's what I told myself. Sell the dream, not the stock. I gravitated toward tech plays, little startups promising to be the next Microsoft. The truth, most of them were garbage, companies nobody outside a 3-block radius had ever heard of. But that didn't matter. What mattered was the story. I developed a script of my own. "Sir, you remember when Microsoft went public? People laughed. They said it was just a hobby business. The ones who ignored the noise and bought in, they're millionaires now. This company I'm showing you, same exact setup. You either get in early or you regret it forever." Half the time, I didn't even believe my own pitch, but the clients did. And that was enough. The commissions rolled in. I bought a used BMW 325, forest green, leather seats, the kind of car that turned heads in Rustwood but barely got noticed on Wall Street. Still, when I drove it across the Queensboro Bridge, I felt like a king. My apartment upgraded too, a shoebox 1-bedroom in Queens instead of that rotten hostel. It smelled faintly of curry from the neighbors downstairs, but it was mine, and it was better than anything I'd had back home. Life started moving fast. Expensive suits from Macy's, nights out in midtown bars where the bartenders learned my name, the thrill of having a pocket full of cash and no one to tell me how to spend it. Through it all, my closest friend remained Tommy Clark. Tommy was good, maybe too good. He had a boyish honesty in his voice that people trusted. The guy could sell water in a rainstorm, but he didn't have the same hunger I did. We'd grab beers after work, and I'd brag about my commissions, my new watch, the girls I'd met. One night in late '94, we sat at a bar on the Lower East Side, neon lights flickering above us. Tommy swirled his beer and said quietly, "Eddie, don't you ever feel guilty? Like we're just selling air. These stocks, most of them don't go anywhere." I leaned back, smirking. "Listen, Tommy, people want to believe. We give them a chance to dream. If the dream doesn't work out, that's life. Nobody forced them to buy." He frowned. "Still feels like we're hustling widows and dentists." "Hey, don't knock dentists," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "They've got deep pockets." But inside, I felt the sting of his words. I'd buried that guilt deep, but every so often it bubbled up. I just drowned it in money, like pouring whiskey on a fire. Meanwhile, Mickey Russo became both mentor and devil on my shoulder. He'd swagger over to my desk, slap me on the back, and whisper, "Kid, you're a natural. Keep this up. You'll be running your own crew by next year." I wanted that. God, I wanted it. Not just the money, but the respect, to finally be somebody. By '95, my pay stubs looked like lottery checks compared to the life I'd left behind. I flew home to Rustwood for Christmas that year, wearing my best suit, slipping $100 bills to my cousins like it was nothing. My dad looked at me with something between pride and bitterness. He never said much, but I could tell he didn't quite understand what I did, only that I'd escaped the fate that chained him. Still, late at night, alone in my Queens apartment, I sometimes wondered if Tommy was right. Were we selling lies? Did it matter if the money was real? I pushed the questions aside. I was too busy climbing. Back then, I thought the ride would never end. But I was wrong.
By 1996, I felt untouchable. I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed. My BMW was polished every weekend, and I even started dating women who wouldn't have looked twice at me back in Ohio. Success felt permanent, like I'd cracked some secret code. Then came the biotech play. A tiny company out of New Jersey claimed it was close to FDA approval for a miracle drug. Mickey swore it was a sure thing. "Kid, this is the one. Mortgage your future if you have to. We're all getting rich off this." I believed him. Hell, I wanted to believe. I poured everything I had into it. Every dime of savings. Every bonus. Worse, I called my best clients, the ones who trusted me most, and told them this was the ticket. Some wired in their kids' college funds, others took out loans. I pitched it with the same conviction I'd sell my own soul. For weeks, the stock soared. Every morning, the ticker climbed higher, and my clients called me with congratulations. I walked into the office like a hero. Tommy, though, looked uneasy. "Eddie, don't you think this is too good to be true?" I waved him off. "Relax, this is how legends are made." But legends can collapse in a single headline. One gray Tuesday morning, the FDA announced the drug had failed trials. The stock plummeted to zero by the closing bell. In less than 8 hours, everything I had, everything my clients had, was gone. The phone started ringing, but this time it wasn't congratulations. It was rage, betrayal, heartbreak. One guy, a dentist from Jersey, screamed down the line, "You ruined me, Malone! That was my kid's tuition! Do you understand what you've done?" His voice still echoes in my head. I tried to put on a brave face, but inside, panic clawed at me. I'd gone from king to beggar overnight. The BMW got repossessed within weeks. I missed rent on the Queen's apartment. Mickey vanished into thin air, claiming he never told me to go heavy. As for Tommy, he didn't gloat, but he didn't sugarcoat it either. "Eddie," he said quietly, "this is what happens when greed blinds you. One day you're selling the dream, the next you're living the nightmare." For the first time since coming to New York, I didn't have an answer. By '98, I was running on fumes. The crash had gutted me. My savings were gone, clients blacklisted my calls, and Dawson and Tate kept me around only because I could still grind out a few desperate sales.
I'd go home to my bare apartment, stare at the ceiling, and wonder if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life leaving Ohio. That's when Mickey came back into the picture. He'd vanished after the biotech fiasco, but one night he showed up at a bar in Midtown, looking sharp as ever, gold watch flashing, slick smile in place. He ordered us around and leaned close. "Kid," he said, "I got a new angle. No more penny stock trash. This is real, inside info." I froze. Inside info? Mickey, that's illegal. He smirked. "So's jaywalking, but one'll make you rich." He told me about mergers before they were announced, whispered tips about earnings reports. At first, I resisted. I still had Tommy's voice in my head warning me not to cross that line. But then I looked at my bank account, at the final notice from my landlord, then I caved. The money came fast, obscenely fast. I'd put a few thousand into a stock on Tuesday, and by Friday, it tripled. Suddenly, I was back in the game. New apartment in Midtown, tailored suits, steak dinners instead of dollar pizza. I told myself I deserved it, that after all the losses, this was just the universe paying me back. But paranoia crept in. Every time the phone rang, I jumped. Every stranger in the office felt like an informant. I started drinking more just to take the edge off. Tommy noticed. He pulled me aside one night after work. "Eddie, you're different. This isn't you. What are you into?" I lied. "Just got lucky." He didn't buy it. "Listen, man, this path only ends one of two ways: prison or a pine box." I laughed it off, but his words gaunted at me. Still, the rush of those trades was stronger than fear. Each win felt like oxygen, and I was addicted. I told myself I'd stop once I had enough. But on Wall Street, enough doesn't exist. The summer of '99 was when the walls finally closed in. I just executed my biggest score yet, a merger play that tripled my money in a week. I strutted into the office that Monday morning, feeling 10 feet tall, like nothing could touch me. Then the two men in dark suits walked through the glass doors. "Edward Malone?" one of them asked. I nodded, confused. Before I could say a word, he flashed a badge. FBI. The room went silent. Phones hung in midair. My knees buckled as they cuffed me right there at my desk. The clatter of the handcuffs felt louder than anything I'd ever heard. I scanned the room, searching for Mickey. He was nowhere in sight. My gut twisted. He'd set me up, or at least saved himself by throwing me to the wolves. And Tommy? He was standing by the water cooler, his face pale. He didn't say a word, just shook his head slowly, like he'd seen this ending long before I had. The investigation was brutal. They had wiretaps, trading records, testimony. Every late-night phone call, every lucky trade. It was all laid bare. My lawyer told me flat out, if you fight this, you'll get 20 years. If you cooperate, maybe 2. I took the deal. Prison was nothing like the movies. No gangs, no shanks in the yard. Just endless gray walls, the stink of bleach, and the crushing weight of time. Days blurred together. I worked in the library, folding dog-eared paperbacks, pretending I still had a brain worth using. Nights were the hardest. Alone in that cell, I'd replay everything. The first phone call that hooked me, the dentist's furious voice, Tommy's warnings, my father's empty stare back in Rustwood. The money was gone. The suits, the car, the apartment, gone. The only thing left was the wreckage I'd made of my name. When I finally walked out after 2 years, I wasn't the same Eddie Malone who stepped off the bus in New York with stars in his eyes. I was a ghost to him, carrying nothing but regret. By 2000, I was back where it all started, Rustwood, Ohio. Only this time, I wasn't the kid dreaming of skyscrapers. I was the ex-con who'd flown too close to the sun and crashed. My apartment was a cramped 2-bedroom above a hardware store. I worked in a small accounting office, punching numbers instead of dialing phones. No Armani suits, no BMW, just a beat-up Ford and a closet full of thrift store shirts.
People in town whispered when they saw me. Some called me the Wall Street guy, like it was a joke. Others asked if I still had money stashed somewhere. Truth was, I had nothing but a stack of mistakes. I thought often about my dad. For years, I'd sworn I wouldn't end up like him, bitter and broken by forces he couldn't control. Yet in the end, I wasn't much different. He'd lost his soul to the mill. I lost mine to greed. Sometimes at night, I dream of that first day in New York, stepping off the bus, the city roaring around me, skyscrapers scraping the sky. I can almost feel the hope I had in my chest. Then I wake up, and it's gone. Do I regret it? Every damn day. But if I'm honest, a part of me still misses the rush, the sound of the phone, the adrenaline of a deal, the fantasy that money could erase where I came from. Wall Street doesn't care who you are. It chews up kids like me, spits them out, and never looks back. The only trick is knowing when to walk away. And me? I didn't. I ran straight into the fire, and I'll carry the burns for the rest of my life.